My name is Tillman. I am German and I'm serving as a missionary in Switzerland. This is my story of surrender. I was saved when I was 5 years old. I grew up in a Christian family and had a lot of love and care, and Jesus was always my hero. On a tent evangelism at age 5, I gave my life to Jesus. But unfortunately, in my congregation, there was no custom of discipleship for the youth. So in my teenage years, I got off track and became the prodigal son. I ended up in crime, in drugs, and in lots of occultism. My friends were performing witchcraft, calling the spirits, and a lot of them even pass away, committing suicide or dying in strange accidents. So my life suddenly became very serious and dark, and I had not expected any of this to happen because I thought my life would always be nice, easy, and protected. Far-fetched. When I was 19, I fell off a cliff of 21 feet and almost died. Falling down, I remembered I had a dream when I was 7, a repetitive dream that had reappeared 7 times. I dreamt I was falling into a dark hole, and I knew if I would have fallen into this hole, I would be dead forever. I heard the prayers of my family, and I heard a voice saying, "Your time to die has not come, you shall live." And I woke up. And as I was 19, during my time in the military, and I had this accident, I remembered the dream. So I started seeking for that voice. I read all spiritual books I could find, the Bhagavad Gita, Quran. I read about the Buddhist teachings and lots of esoteric teachings in shamanism, but I didn't find that voice. Suddenly I heard a voice saying, if you want to find truth, you also need to read the Bible. So I picked up the Bible, the dusty book out of my shelf, and I started reading. And I was very touched by the peace, the clarity, and the depth of what I read. So suddenly in my room during the military, I found myself on my knees, looking to heaven and saying, Jesus, if you are really the Son of God, and the story is true after all, I will give my life to you. But I would ask from you 2 things. Would you make me free from drugs, and would you give me a life that's an adventure? I prayed, and suddenly a golden light came into my room. I started to weep for more than 1 hour. I went to bed and tried to forget about everything next day. This was the turning point in my life. First, everything became worse, and then later got much better. One night I heard a voice saying, if you want to be free, you will stop drugs tomorrow. Next morning I stopped drugs, never touched them again, was free overnight. The next 3 months were paradise on earth. All my emotions came back, my joy came back, my nerves grew back. I was the happiest person on earth. My friends asked me, what are you taking? Give me the same drug. And I said, you need to stop taking drugs and you need to start following Jesus. You will have the same experience. So a lot of my drug friends became Christians as well. About 3 months later, I had a vision. Jesus appeared to me. I was sitting in my garden and I felt a tap on my back. I turned around and I see Jesus standing in front of me, and he is looking at me saying, Tillman, how do you like it? And I said, it's very good, I love it. And he says, do you remember what you promised to me 6 months ago? And I thought, yeah. I said, when you make me free, and when you give me a life that's an adventure, then I will give you my life. And he just looked at me and he smiled and he says, so what do you want to do? And I knew in this moment, if I say yes, this will be forever. I knew if I say one time yes, it's no longer my life, it's his, because I told him. And I knew that he was real, he kept his word. So I said, Jesus, can I think about it for 3 days? And he smiled at me, says, no problem. He disappeared. And I was stunned. I said, what was this? I knew I hadn't taken drugs for more than 6 months, but I knew I had seen him. And this is how you know when it was a vision, when you can tell a story. I had a story. 3 days later, I was in town, and suddenly I again feel this tap on my shoulder. And I turn around, I look, it's Jesus again. This time without speaking, he looks at me, and just with his thoughts, he just said, and how do you decide? full of expectation, but so kind and sweet, no pressure. But he wanted me to follow him. So I just looked at him and says, "Aye, Captain, here I am." And I knew from this day on, it was Jesus. So this day I decided to be a missionary and follow him for the rest of my life. I wondered how this life should look like. So I read Revelation, then I read Acts. And I saw in the Gospels how Jesus sent out the disciples 2 by 2. But I didn't see anyone doing that. So I went to my friends and said, "Why don't we go out, preach the gospel?" And they said, "No, I'm studying. No, I'm in school. No, I'm working. I can't go." So I didn't find anyone to come with me. So I went to all the pastors I could find and I said, "Jesus sent the disciples. Can you send me?" And the pastor said, "Where should we send you? We don't know how to send you." Took my hand, placed it on my hand, and I sent myself. So I went and started hitchhiking all through Germany, all through France, all through Spain, all through Portugal, and I started my stories with Jesus and I became a missionary. So I've been a missionary now for 25 years, serving Jesus, living adventures with him in many countries, and I'm enjoying him being my master.